rescue op. Save the dinosaurs from an island that's about to explode. What could go wrong?
Welcome to Fallen Kingdom, we return Jurassic World 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
And Dave.
And in this episode we're discussing minute 76 of Fallen Kingdom. Before we get to that, David, briefly heading over to Jurassic-Pedia.com, I thought it interesting to go back and have a look at the article here from 2019 on the Battle at Big Rock. The short film that came out between Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. One of many that was supposed to happen and never did for whatever reason. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Interesting here, little photo with the article, the Do Not Feed Wildlife and the Jurassic T-Rex logo with the stripe through it. Just the imagery of that at the time, thinking, going into Dominion, Colin saying, you imagine being in a small town or something and knowing that there's a raptor or a carnivore over in that forest and you just don't go near it. Although nowadays we know there's grizzly bears in these forests, black bears in that forest, yet hunters still go out and dice with death on a daily basis and attempt to commingle with these animals. But we talked about in the April news, we seems that we're getting filmed, or the new movies filming in Malta. We might have a black market scene there. We might have black market stuff happening in Thailand as well. Something like the events at Battle at Big Rock. It's sort of a single little standalone story. It's a result of the aftermath that happens at the end of this film. Maybe what we're going to get with air quotes Jurassic City is a sort of longer single story like Battle at Big Rock, but in a town somewhere nearby. I just thought it was interesting to go back, read this article, go back and watch Battle at Big Rock, because it is pretty good. They built the animatronics for it that they'll later use in Dominion, so it was good to see and revisit. Now 5 years later, if you believe that.
I always liked Battle of Big Rock. It's somebody always has their own idea for a dinosaur attack, and this is one of those instances where, well, let's go out and film one of those ideas. It's basically just a little vignette. I think it gets a very short reference in the opening montage in Dominion, and it's basically what fans always want. They want a dinosaur attack in the middle of a camping trip. I mean, this is it.
Yeah, the only thing missing was a storm. But to go back to the news article too, we discussed Thailand, whether it's a stand-in for sauna or whether it's something more nefarious that happens in Thailand. Before Battle at Big Rock come out, they announced that they were filming an island for it. You could not convince me that any filming in Ireland was going to be meant to be the redwoods in Eureka or that. And you watch those scenes and you'd be 100% thinking they filmed in Eureka or the redwood forest, but no, it was a redwood forest in Ireland. And it looks, that could be sauna, easy.
Mm-hmm.
You've been there, you've seen it firsthand, the Eureka redwoods.
Well, this was actually filmed in somehow they had found a small little, I guess there's a small little redwood grove in Ireland. And when I first heard about it, I'm like, a redwood grove in Ireland? And I had to Google it. And it's, I guess somebody had planted a redwood grove there. They had once actually been native to Ireland, and they're doing well, and you can actually go visit them.
And geographically, again, you've been to Eureka. Where that is in the continental US, does it snow there in winter? Like, does it get cold enough during the winter to snow? Is that low enough, or high enough, I should say, away from the equator?
Yes.
Yeah. So the redwoods...
it definitely gets a lot of snow.
Yeah, so the redwoods don't mind a little bit of cold, obviously. And if there's a grove growing in Ireland, you can guarantee that'd be a lot colder for most of the year.
Well, interestingly, Ireland does not get nearly as cold in the winter as northern North America does.
Okay.
And it's because of the Gulf Stream, the way it arcs up towards England and the British Isles and keeps it warm. When I went there in January in 2017, most of the trip, I didn't need anything more than a heavy sweater.
Okay. Yep, alright. I've been told there's a grove of redwoods close by. I need to go and visit that. I need to get on the motorbike one day and go for an explore. Because if I've got something like that close by too, that'll be very good for a camping trip. But yeah, so this article's up here on Jurassic-Pedia with many more. So head over and check it out.
Grandpa. Grandpa, wake up. Grandpa. Grandpa, wake up. Wake up.
Dave, we're only getting a minute 76.
Sounds good.
Alright, minute 76 of Fallen Kingdom opens with a rushing wanting carnivores and ends with Mills calling for Iris. Last minute ends with the Russian conversation, but translated basically into two carnivores wanted on this guy's shopping list. As we continue to minute 76, Toby Jones tells Mills looks like Lockwood is going to have a very good night, and will he be joining us? And I'm glad here that Mills doesn't reply with a zinger, some sort of one-liner, even though it is sort of slightly tacky because we know what Mr. Eversole doesn't, that's going to be very unlikely.
Oh no, Mr. Eversole. I believe Mr. Lockwood is quite indisposed at the moment.
Well, you could go to classic Arnold one and say, "I'm sorry, but he's dead tired." Don't just. Which again, I'm glad we didn't go to that sort of. We've talked about how sort of graphic, how dark the whole smothering thing was. I'm glad we didn't make a joke of it. Interestingly, it's very unlikely. Allures more to the fact that he turned that dial up and it's not immediate. We're going to get to it in a minute. Just because there's more morphine pumping into Lockwood, it doesn't mean that he died the moment Mills left the room, where in the movie he's suffocated, so Lockwood died the moment Mills left the room, although that's counts as what we see at the end of this minute with Maisie going in to wake her grandfather. But meanwhile, speaking of Maisie the monkey, scaling the walls of Lockwood Manor here, making her way across the roof towards Lockwood's penthouse here. This penthouse room that seems to be up on a level of its own, with no hallways or anything around it. So he's obviously got a rooftop view of the mansion. She comes to his window and opens it. Already we can see the computer, the flat line, Lockwood laying there motionless. And as she climbs through the window, she whispers, "Grandpa." We mentioned how dark the smothering is. I've never been in a position of discovering a dead loved one, or seeing a dead body, apart from obviously bad YouTube sites, internet sites. I could imagine this would be an issue for a lot of children in the same situation, coming into a grandparent's bedroom the next morning to wake them and they've passed during the night. It's probably not played as much for that here, but I can imagine there'd be a lot of people sort of triggered by this scene, having lived through a similar instance in their real life of going to wake the grandparents or grandparent in the morning and that grandparent's passed away during the night. Has it ever happened for you?
Fortunately, no. Both my grandparents died while I was not there.
Yep. So yeah, while smothering Lockwood's a pretty dark theme, yeah, I can imagine there'd be some some fans, some children out there that would have been triggered with this happening to them at some point in their life. Because it keeps going. She keeps calling Grandpa, wake up, and starts shaking his arm, hoping to see any sign of life. And suddenly his life sign monitor, it's still attached to his finger, starts communicating with the computer again. We get the flat line beep that we all know from medical shows. It's not, I don't know how we explain this in the film itself, whether Mills rigged the life signs alarm so it didn't go off, where he just pulled it off his finger a little bit so it wasn't detecting a pulse.
You can actually turn those off. Like I've seen when my dad was in the hospital recently for a bad flu, he had that heart monitor thing on him, and when they take it off, of course it went off, and they just turn the whole thing off with a push of a button. So it's probably what he did was he just turned the monitor off completely, and so it wouldn't have went off when he did eventually flatline.
And that's that's what's suggested in the novelisation. When we get Mills come back in at the end of the minute and going into minute 77, he goes over to Lockwood's side and turns the computer back on, and it starts flatlining, doing the flatlining beep. So it's a bit jumbled here with what we get in the film, what we get with the novelisation. Obviously, whatever shaking around here, it comes across as if something that Maisie does by shaking him sets the computer off. But again, going to the novelisation, Mills has turned the morphine up. It's just at this point when Maisie's in there to try and wake him up is the point where he's overdosed on morphine basically, and his heart stopped, to spoil what's about to come up in the novel. But
And then he was transferred to a better hospital where he was pronounced alive, just like Ian Malcolm.
Yes, rumours of Lockwood's death are greatly exaggerated. Unfortunately not. Maisie panics and looks at the computer monitor as Mills calls for Iris off screen, and as the minute ends, Maisie grasps her father's photo album that was under his arm and runs for a dumbwaiter in the far wall of the room, and closes the door just as Mills walks into the room. He stands there for a moment looking at the dead body of Benjamin Lockwood with a sad look on his face. As the minute ends, and again he shouts Iris's name. Anything else on that? We're going to get more of Iris and Mills next minute. But heading over to novel comparisons, we don't get a reason for the two carnivores in the film, but in the novel, Eversole tells the Russian he knows why he wants the two, and then Mills asks why, and Eversole informs him it's for a cage match. $5,000 a seat and pay-per-view. I don't know if that's what you'd expect from a Russian mob. Maybe it is, because he's not really thinking grander. I suppose with the prices we get in the auction, we'll have to keep an eye out and see if that guy actually bids on any of the carnivores. He might pick up the baryonyx and something else we don't see. But yeah, here at the auction, he's going to purchase two carnivores to have in a one-on-one cage match. That's just how petty humans are. All the things you'd be doing, it's a cage match at $5,000 a seat and pay-per-view online. Anything else? Anything on that?
No, not really.
No. After Mills tells Eversole Lockwood's unlikely to join him tonight, he checks his watch and thinks by now the morphine should have done its work. But he has to be sure and excuses himself from Eversole, and obviously heads up to the bedroom, where in the novel they're down greeting guests. We see cars turning up. Mills is down there talking to Toby Jones, and then as the minute ends, we see how fast Maisie runs across the roof to wake her grandfather up. It's weird that Mills is right there. Obviously in the film he's smothered him, so he knows he's dead. You'd think he'd still be down. His main focus now would be the guests, Toby Jones. If Iris was to come in to tend to Lockwood now and see him dead, from obviously, well, not obviously from suffocation, but Iris would come across his dead body, he wouldn't be implicated, and it'd just go ahead as if he died naturally, you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, Well, here it's sort of alluding to the novel more. He's going up to check that the morphine should have done its trick. Spoiler alert for next minute, he walks into the room and turns the computer monitors back on, and that's what sets the heartbeat alarm off. But it also would turn the morphine dial back so it doesn't look like foul play either. Okay, just some I'll say ugly stuff between the film and the novel, where some things inform what's actually happening, whereas other things just completely contradict both the novel and the film, which is a shame. But that's
Earlier when you mentioned that the hit when Clara hits Mills, it causes his lip to bleed. There's no evidence of his lip having been cut in a punch at all in the film.
well. Also, too, I'd have to have a look at when he walks into the room if he's wearing his glasses, because when Claire in the film grabs him by the back of the head and smashes his face into the bars, he takes his glasses off and you can clearly see they're broken. So, although I'd imagine someone of his wealth would have several pairs of, especially for prescription glasses, and he'd probably want to fix them before he went out with Toby Jones, because if he was sitting out there on the steps with Harry Potter glasses greeting people coming in, I don't know how serious people would take him if he was standing there with broken glasses, but I'll have to check that and come back with it for next minute. But, David, that is minute 76. I will just mention now, because I didn't do it with the April news, there's some things about to happen behind the scenes, work, time changes, that sort of thing. If you do not hear a new minute next week, do not fear, it will be coming. We just need to revamp our recording schedule and recording times. So rest assured there will be a new minute coming soon. If there's a week or two without one, that's just because we need to get adjusted to some new recording times and work some things out behind the scenes. But we haven't given up. We will get a new episode out as soon as we possibly can. So please be patient and mindful of that. And if there are any lingering issues, we'll make it known on the socials. So we appreciate. Thank you for listening. And Dave, as always, that's been it for this week. Let's get out of here.
All right, sounds good.